From the academy to the command post, the Weekend Wrap-Up podcast covers the leadership lessons, mentorship, and tough conversations needed to build a resilient firehouse. Rated as one of the best fire and emergency services podcasts, get ready to be empowered by host Kevin Ferrara as he presents another informative episode you won't want to miss. Get ready, folks. Here we go.
Welcome, everybody. You're listening to AFSO 21's Weekend Wrap-Up podcast. Here is your host, Kevin Ferrara.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of AFSO 21's Weekend Wrap-Up podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ferrara. Folks, this week, pulling another episode out of the archives, and it's one that I feel is important to listen to with not only your crews, but your leadership and even your local officials. This episode of the wrap-up is a deep one that, well, I have to admit, I really had a pleasure of having with Chief Billy Goldfeder back in January of 2021. Billy and I sat down and had about an hour-long discussion, just two firefighters having a candid conversation about how firefighter survival starts with each of us, the firefighter. Billy and I spoke candidly about firefighter cancer and what we as firefighters have control over regarding prevention, things like dirty turnout gear, wearing SCBA when we think it's unnecessary, and how the culture within the fire service actually influences survival. We also had a conversation about staying in your lane and what that means for all of us in the fire service. So get ready as you listen to Chief Billy Goldfeder and I talk about his own path in the fire service and where the fire service itself is leading. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did recording it. Here we go.
Welcome, everybody, to AFSO 21 Radio. You're listening to the Weekend Wrap-Up.
Welcome, everyone, to the Weekend Wrap-Up here on AFSO 21 Radio. I'm your host, Kevin Ferrara, and folks, as we continue to recognize Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month, over the next hour, you're going to hear from someone known throughout the fire service that's extremely passionate about firefighter health and safety. Folks, a few days ago, Chief Billy Goldfeder of Firefighter Close Calls, home of the secret list, sat down with me in the Weekend Wrap-Up to share his thoughts on issues affecting the fire service, in particular, firefighter survival. So, folks, get ready to hear from the one and only Chief Billy Goldfeder, shooting from the hip, as he stated prior to recording, chatting with us one-on-one. All right, folks, welcome to the podcast. Our guest today is none other than Chief Billy Goldfeder. For those that aren't familiar, Chief has been a very strong advocate of fire protection, emergency service safety for many years. So, Chief, welcome to the show. If you could, please introduce yourself to the listeners.
Well, hey, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to spend some time chatting, which is what I love to do. And I've been a firefighter since 1973, an officer since 1980, and a chief since 1982. I'm a deputy chief at the Loveland Sims Fire Department, which is outside of Cincinnati. We do about 5,000 runs a year. We're part of a very engaged area fire service with automatic mutual aid, box alarms, and all that. And I'm very proud of where we've come in this area to where we were when I came here in the 90s. But it's very, very collaborative, very positive, and the public's winning because of that. I've had an interest in firefighter survival since the 70s, and maybe we'll talk about that later as we get into the discussion about where that came from and what sort of lit my fire. I'm a dad to 5 kids, and I'm a poppy to 6 grandkids, and they are my priority.
Nice. So, you talked about, hoping to get into how you got started, in all of this. So, one thing I always ask my guests, who or what influenced you to become, not just a firefighter, but then subsequently becoming so involved in firefighter health and safety throughout? I think you expand beyond firefighters. I think you dabble a little bit in all of emergency services.
So the interest started, I don't know when. I was adopted. I was born in Chicago and then adopted by a family in New York, and I consider them my family, of course. And I was actually born in the old Cook County Hospital in Chicago in an area for unwed moms. And it turns out the past fire commissioner of Chicago, Jose Santiago, was born 3 weeks separate from me in the same ward. So maybe that's what something was going on in that ward that time, that we were interested in becoming firefighters or whatever. But as I grew up as a little boy in Long Island, there was this guy that would come to wax the floors of our house. Now, most of you have no idea what waxing a floor means because they're all preset these days. But we had a guy who would come I think once a year, and he would wax the floors. Now, picture this. I'm 3 or 4 years old, and I'm riding on his waxing machine. Today, nobody would allow that because, you'd get sued or something. So he would let me ride on this waxing machine. And then when he was done, he would walk out to his car to put the machine away. His name was Danny, and I have a picture of him in my office. Now, you got to know, this is going back 63 years ago, and he still influences me. And when he put the waxing machine away in the back of his Woody station wagon, I noticed a set of boots, a black coat, and a helmet. And I said, Danny, what's that? He says, I'm a firefighter. I said, I thought you work on houses. He says, I'm also a volunteer firefighter. And that's the earliest memory I have, because from that point on, and I've had no interest in anything else. I mean, I'm a musician. I've been a drummer since 4th grade. I obviously am married, so I have some interest in relationships, things like that. But I'm ate up. I've been ate up. I don't care. I make no apologies for it. I'm as gung-ho now at 65 years old as when I was at 5 years old when the whistles blew.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the earliest influence. And so to further, let's jump ahead to the firefighter survival issue. So growing up in Long Island in the Great Neck, Manhasset, Lakeville area, I hung around the firehouse, maybe more than some of the old timers would have liked me to back in those days. But that was my whole thing. It's all I was interested in. So I got old enough, I joined, became a firefighter, and there was the death of a firefighter in a neighboring district. It was a captain with the Garden City Park Fire Department who responded to a van on fire. And the van had compressed gas tanks inside the van. And they exploded during the fire and immediately killed this captain. In that 5-year period, we lost some firefighters at a synagogue fire in Valley Stream. We lost 2 firefighters in Bethpage at a pool supply facility. We lost a captain in Wantagh when the apparatus rear-ended an aerial, all in this period of time. And the common denominator that struck me in not just, of course, the deaths of these good people, but was, and very innocently, was how everyone accepted it. Like, hey, that's just part of the job. Things will happen. And I think that really stuck in my mind. Excuse me for 1 second. That really stuck as the regularness of it or the acceptance of it. And I started thinking to myself, now back then you thought only to yourself and you did not speak out loud about any time a firefighter was hurt or killed because that was the culture. It had to happen. It was part of the job. It was God's will, all those things. And I started questioning that in my mind, thinking, I don't know that it's always that way. I don't know that these all have to happen. Yeah. And that's really what started my interest.
Nice. Well, I think all my listeners appreciate and I think really the fire service appreciates your involvement, over the years and to be honest, thank God you got involved. You had that mentality to say, not stand by and just say, that's just how it is, to have the forethought and say, look, we got to stop this. And that's sort of how, I came to be with the podcast. My background, I started at age 16. So I remember some of the old school, firefighters. Some guys were still wearing the rubber boots, the 3/4 length coats, and they were smoke eaters. I mean, that's how it was back then, and that's how it was.
We at the busiest time when I was on Long Island, we did about 60 working fires a year, and that was pretty good number for us. Yeah. And we used to compare how long we could blow our noses to have black snots. see how bad it was, and that was the rubber pull-up short coat. All my pants had a ring of black around them, and that was a source of pride for us.
Yeah. Yep.
And let me just, Kevin, let me make a comment in here because
Sure.
I want to get past this. Make no mistake about it. There are firefighters who have to die. There are line of duty deaths that are very justified and were very necessary.
Yeah.
As painful as that is. When Kevin Apuzio in East Franklin, New Jersey, has a lady in his arms and the floor collapses. Howie Carpluck in New York City with his Proby would not leave his Proby. And there are many other examples of that. So, especially to your younger listeners, and I know it seems this way, everything in this generation has to be one way or the other. Well, this is not that answer. This is a gray area. There are some necessary deaths, and there are many unnecessary deaths. And we need to understand what those differences are. When you get ejected from your apparatus because you blew a red light and you're slammed into by a truck because you blew a red light, that was avoidable.
Right.
But if you're going into a dwelling and you've got reports of kids trapped or somebody trapped and you lose your life, that was necessary. That's what we do. We cannot ever forget that responsibility. So sorry, I didn't want to derail you, but that's an important point that I always like to make. It's not all black and white.
Right. And I truly appreciate that because I think that's something, a lot of our young guys and girls, in the fire service, they're not hearing that, or they're not hearing it as much. I mean, that should be something echoed every day, and truly, appreciated and comprehended because, let's be honest.
The target is zero line of duty deaths, but let's be realistic. This is a risky job, and we need to take risk at times.
Exactly. So, Chief, one thing you've talked about, we've talked about here in the podcast is firefighter cancer rates, and cancer, unfortunately, it's surpassing heart disease, as the leading cause of firefighter line of duty fatalities in the United States. And you discussed this topic, back in March of 2020 on the Fire Rescue One website. So, first, and I'm involved with, being retired military. I'm sure you've heard, with AFFF foam, with PFAS. That seems to be the acronym of 2020 and 2021 now. So, what are your thoughts about PFAS and its linkage to cancer? In firefighting foam, we're hearing that it is, or it could be in turnout gear now. And to follow up on that, what has changed or needs to change in your view to prevent emergency responders, families, and citizens with our communities from being unnecessarily exposed to PFAS?
So let's start with the overall cancer issue first. And the fact is that most cancer exposures we can be managing. We see the pictures every day, firefighters covered in soot, laughing off the mask. We don't need it. That's all bullshit. I mean, let's not be stupid. And at that point, you need a strong officer that takes a zero tolerance attitude. You need a chief that has a zero tolerance attitude. Yeah. I'm very proud that in our area, not just my department, but in our area, I'll give anybody a $100 bill. You find one of our firefighters in any of the 4 or 5 departments we operate with, operating without a mask, not wiping down after. We've learned because some of our own have had cancer, some survived and some did not. So that's the overall. Let's stop kidding ourselves. The greatest issue of firefighters getting cancer is us. We can fix that. Okay, so that's number one. We need to understand it. Number two, the PFAS issue is one of obvious concern, and my opinion is I don't believe that any of our manufacturers, Lion, Fire Decks, Honeywell, Globe, any of them have any malice whatsoever.
Right.
Now, I cannot speak for the makers of those materials they use. Those are big companies, and some of them have some pretty nasty history of not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But as far as the manufacturers, I don't believe that any of them, and I also believe all of them are working with those who make the materials and saying, hey, we need a better solution to this. Now, given the choice, I'll wear my gear well before now. I'm not going to wear my gear, but do you need to wear your gear around the firehouse? Do you need to wear it when you go out for the meal? No, take it off when you're not using it. Wash it after you're using it. And I believe in time shorter than longer, we're going to see gear that will provide a better level of cancer protection that also does not reduce what those materials are protecting us from. In other words, we're concerned about PFAS in the gear. Well, those materials are being used to keep us from getting soaking wet when operating. Now, we don't want to get soaking wet.
Right.
So what can we do between now and the new materials coming out? And that is wash your gear, take it off when you don't need to, and take care of it. And that's what all the manufacturers are saying. I just read something by Lion. They have a whole list of things that you need to do, and it makes perfect sense. So just do that.
Yep.
But to kick and scream that our gear is killing us without acknowledging our own behaviors are killing us more and longer is silly, my opinion.
Yeah. Yep. So what would you say, here, I'm here in Central PA, I started in a volunteer fire service, did my military stint, come back in, I'm with a volunteer company now. And, fortunately my company down here, we do practice good measures in terms of limiting exposure, washing our gear, washing our masks down. But I've seen a lot of volunteer firefighters, throughout my past 33 years that toss their dirty gear in the back of their truck, take their gear home, set it down, kids are playing with it. You get that cross-contamination. What would you say to them, in terms of implementing some sort of policy, whether it's company-wide or even a personal policy? Say, hey, I'm gonna start doing this because I'm looking across the dinner table and I see my family that I'm unnecessarily exposing. What do you have to say to those folks?
Don't be a moron. I don't know. I'll speak their language. Forever, I had dirty gear in the back of my buggy. Forever, I had my kids in car seats, or even before car seats. They just used to play. I get it. Now, thank God, so far, my kids are good, right?
Yeah.
But also, when I was doing that, the carcinogens that we were fighting fires in even 25, 30, 35 years ago were less than they are today. It's much worse even today. Every day there's new chemicals introduced, and we're fighting fires in those chemicals.
Yep.
So, first of all, there is money out there for second sets of gear. Shame on any department that's not applying for those grants. The grants are out there. Last year they had extra money left over because not enough fire departments applied for grants. So apply for the damn grants and get them, okay?
Yeah.
Get you everybody 2 sets of gear. You can also get washers. And I would challenge any department that there's not a business in your community that would not buy you an extractor or a washer and dryer system. There's somebody out there.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this podcast and you say that your department just can't get one, reach out to me through Kevin. He can get you in touch with me and I'll help identify sources to get you that. It's the old where there's a will, there's a way. And even if it's you just lay your gear out and wash it down when you get back and dry it, right? That's the most bare sense of doing it. But it's like you really wouldn't think these days, other than a rare occasion of operating without an SCBA, you wouldn't think these days of going to a fire without a thermal imager. And it needs to apply the same exact way. We need to think that when our gear is filthy, we need to get the crap off of there because it's going to impact our kids, our grandkids, or ourselves. It's all fun and games until one day you go piss and you piss blood, and then you go find out it's due to his exposure as a firefighter, and then you got to deal with cancer. You don't want that.
Right. So, Chief, like I said, for the past 33 years, I've been in the fire service, and really, I'd say within the past 10 years, I've really ramped up my passion about, health and safety being a priority in the fire service. Cause I've watched, from being a volunteer, through the military, we're a little bit more disciplined in the military, a little bit more rigorous in terms of physical fitness and everything. But, and we've seen, throughout, fire departments, whether they're, mostly career, they have these structured health and wellness programs. That was a big push just before I retired in 2017 from the Air Force. With regards to that, a lot of the volunteer services, they don't have these structured health and wellness programs. And let's be honest, there's some firefighters out there that are questionable, whether it be age, physical characteristics. It's like, sometimes you just got to ask, why are they there? We appreciate their passion to serve the community, but, are they putting themselves at risk? Are they putting others at risk? So what would you say to our volunteer emergency responders out there? What should they do or encourage them to do enterprise-wide, within their organization or the volunteer service as a whole, to make sure they're prepared, others, within their organization are prepared to respond to an emergency, and of course, the main goal, return home. Everybody comes home.
So weight is a challenge for anybody, for especially those who have the problem. I was well over 300 pounds for many, many years. I struggle with it every day. I'm hovering at 210 for a long time now, and I'm pretty proud of that number, being 6'1". Could I do better? Yeah, but to me, this is a struggle just to stay where I'm at. I walk 2 miles a day, and I just do what I'm supposed to do because I want to be a firefighter as long as I can.
Yeah.
So that's often what I look at first is if you love being a firefighter, because, if you can't get out of your own way, if you're out of breath before you even put your air pack on, you're again, I'm not worried about what your liability is to each other. And we talk about this some other time. But what about yourself? You need to find out what's going to help you get that weight change, get that fitness going. Find something you like. I hate fitness stuff. But you know what? I love going for a walk, and I take a good walk with my wife, and we do it every morning and every evening, and it's made a difference.
Yeah.
Instead of eating a pint of ice cream at night, I found some low-fat, no sugar added ice cream. So I'm still meeting the things that I enjoy in my life, and it tends to work for me. You got to find out what works for you. Yeah. I don't believe there's a single firefighter that's obese or overweight that wants to be that way. Right. They're just trying to figure out how they get out of that.
Yeah.
There's a book, Firefighter Functional Fitness, that's out by a Pennsylvania fire chief, actually. And that's a phenomenal book. But kind of just talk to yourself about it. What do you want to do? Is it based on, I used to never weigh myself, but I would gauge myself whether my pants still fit or not. If they're still fitting, I'm fine, right?
Yeah.
But find something that works for you. It's a very personal issue. Much of issues related to food are tied to emotional issues and things like that. So, hey, I'm with you, whoever you might be, whether your nickname is chubby or tiny or skinny or whatever they call you. The fact is you'd probably rather be in a little bit better shape to be a better firefighter, so you'll last longer. So find out what works for you, but forget all the other stuff. Find one thing and just start doing that.
Yeah. And
then the first day is going to suck. The second day is a little better. The third day is even. And then one day, your pants are a little looser, or maybe your stomach got filled a little quicker. And over time, that's my answer to that. And this is not just volunteer. There's a lot of overweight career fire. It's not all, And, so that's kind of my response to that. And let me address this and tie it back to what we talked about cancer as well.
Okay.
So whether it's cancer or fitness or heart attack, the thing is, odds are it's not going to happen to you today. Oh, if I breathe a little smoke and I spit some crap out, I'm fine today. Now, keep that in mind. I challenge you to find any fire department out there that runs on any highway that's not blocking today, that's not using cones, that's not pre-warning, because we know we've seen firefighters get run over. We've seen it. So we personalize, hey, that could happen to me today.
Yeah.
So we respond quickly to what could happen today. But things that are more long-term, getting cancer, gaining weight, having a heart attack, that's not going to happen today. I'm fine. I'll have another Twinkie, right?
Yep.
So it's two different challenges. And also, your boss, the chief, your captain, lieutenant, whatever, cannot stop you from shoving that Twinkie in your mouth. They can make you put your air pack on. They can make you block the highway. So you've got to tie some personal responsibility into it. And again, if you love being a firefighter, find something that's going to help you thin down just a little bit at a time. And it really does work out. And honestly, if you're a guy firefighter, it's a whole lot easier than it is for our girls in this job. Women are very challenging with weight issues. I don't mean across the board, but just generally women have much more challenges to lose weight than men do. Yeah. So understand that the next time you're looking at a firefighter that's obese or overweight, and it's someone you're friends with, maybe you think about, hey, how can I help you with this? Let's go get a soda, but we're both having diet soda today, or we're going to drink water or whatever. A little bit of that really goes a long way.
I've always said, Chief, it's in the fire service, our most value asset is ourselves, is the personnel. And, you talk about, it takes a little bit of time here and a little bit of time there. Well, for me, I think if we invest that time up front, the payback is going to be exponential in the end, because you're going to extend your life. You're going to extend your ability to continue serving the public, continue, doing your passion, in the fire service. So
it starts at the top. I mean, the boss has got to set the examples, and the deputies and all. I mean, there was a fire department in Western Pennsylvania decades ago. The fire chief ran aerobics classes in the firehouse, and it became a fun thing that everybody loved doing. Yep. So find something. And, I had a captain years ago that worked for me when I was in Virginia. His name was Danny Corner, probably one of the finest fire officers ever. I mean, he was just one of those people. Yeah. And he had a crew that didn't want to work out. So he wasn't the kind of guy to whip you or nothing like that. But he said, I got to convince these folks there's got to be a better way to do this. So obviously through training, he was able to prove to them they're not in the shape they need to be, climbing ladders, stretching lines. But then one day he loads everybody up on the engine company. He goes out to a subdivision. He gets everybody off the rig, and he tells the driver to drive 2 miles down the road and wait there. We're going to walk and meet you. And he forced everybody to walk to the truck. And the next day he did it again. And that's the kind of leadership we need.
Yeah. Yep. So, Chief, the big thing that really impacted the world is COVID-19. We've seen it literally taking a toll on countries around the world and emergency responders.
Sorry.
Nope, that's all right. So, just repeating here, COVID-19 has, really taken a toll on, emergency responders, the fire service, like I said, not just here in the United States, but across the globe. So, with the concerns of exposure, cross-contamination, with COVID-19, and I've seen it, a little bit here locally, is that, it's likely caused some emergency responders and those considering joining the service to reconsider. It's like, hey, I don't want to get near that stuff. I don't want to, risk it. What are your thoughts on, in your area, and, how has COVID-19 affected, your local emergency responders, or, how do you see it affecting, the fire service as a whole?
So it's affected all of us. I got my first shot 2 weeks ago. I'm waiting for my second one now. Okay. So just what I'm able to do about it. I think you're more apt to get COVID based upon your off-duty behaviors versus your on-duty. On duty, you're wearing gloves, you're washing up, you're wearing a mask, you're sort of forced to follow that. And then off duty, you go amongst a circle of friends who you think you can trust. Yeah. And you spend the weekend partying on a boat with a dozen people. And next thing you know, people got COVID. I'm not saying there's not on-duty exposures to COVID. Of course there are. We know that. Yeah. And we've lost well over 100 emergency responders so far this year. I think we're probably up to 130, 140 right now. So on duty, we know what we're doing. I think our off-duty behavior needs to be remodified and thought about. And look, this is not a political issue. This is not if you like this guy or that guy. Come on, gang. Yeah. Who knows better than we do about the value of prevention? I mean, that's why, if you don't want to wear a mask, all right, then fine. I'll take your SCBA away and your bunker coat. You don't need that shit anymore, right? Oh, no, I need that. Well, why? Because I'm going to be exposed. Well, same thing. Yep. So, listen to the doctors and listen to the medical people. And I'm sure there's people listening to your podcast and don't believe in science and all that. But my answer back is, well, if you've trained in CPR, you believe in science. Yeah. If you're trained as an EMT, you believe in science. if you pull a hose on and put water on the fire, you believe in science. That's where that came from. So don't make it political. I don't care who you support. That's America. You support who you like.
Yeah.
But take care of yourselves, your family, and those around you. And look, I've lost some friends to COVID. And I've got a number of folks who survived it. And it was living hell.
Yeah.
You don't want that. And it's not just for the old folks anymore either. I put out on Firefighter Close Calls in the secret list, a list every couple of days of 5 or 6 responders. And we're talking people in their 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
There was one chief, he was 87 or something. And, I hope I'm able to be a chief at 87, but I kind of think I probably shouldn't be. But that's, whatever. Everybody, he may be the only person in that community who provides the service.
Yeah.
But there are things we can do to prevent bad things from happening to us and others. And we need to do that. So that's my thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah, we could be doing much better.
Yeah. So, one thing that you had talked about earlier in terms of leadership, our leaders have to sort of, take charge, whether it be, preventing, exposure to certain chemicals, physical fitness, all of that. One question I've heard, some of our listeners talk about is, we look at, you go into almost any firehouse, you look at the helmets, various colors depending on where you're at, what country, what department, anything like that. But at the end of the day, pretty much every firehouse has a white helmet in there. Signifies the leader, signifies fire chief, line officer. Do we have to count on the white helmets being the leaders, the quote leaders of the department? I've seen firsthand some really great individuals lower in the ranks in the firehouse sort of get intimidated. They're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to, step forward and put their neck out there in a leadership role because they don't have the white helmet. Do you think, I understand, white helmets signify, especially on a fire ground, who's
white helmet signifies white paint.
Okay.
I mean, after that, it's, who's wearing the helmet and stuff. So
okay.
What happens is when you have a weak coaching staff, the quarterback and others have to step into roles that normally they wouldn't have to. You'd rather your quarterback focus on being a quarterback. When you've got a good coaching staff in your fire department, each member can then focus in their area of responsibility and not have to worry about filling gaps of leadership. When we have failed leadership, either nothing happens and the organization and the community fails, or folks are forced into positions of leadership, such as union leaders or association leaders, in roles that either they'd rather not fill or shouldn't be filling. But it's sort of like the water sort of goes wherever it needs to fit in,
Yeah.
And follows that flow, the path of least resistance. Now, a good leader is going to use those folks in positions so that leader doesn't have to do as much. I mean, I don't do a whole hell of a lot anymore. We get some amazing people.
Yeah.
And my role at a fire anymore is getting there with my piece of paper and pencil and radio and say, what do you need? Because we got some phenomenal officers, including my boss above me and many of the subordinates as well. So leadership now, but if I get to an incident and it's not going well, I'm bringing what I need to fill in that gap.
Absolutely.
But I have the white helmet. What you want to try and do is, if you've got a great leadership team and the white helmet is not performing or is not there, then you train people to move into those positions. It's when the white helmet is there, but people below that have to force themselves in to make change or to impact an incident. That's the problem. And it's a fine line. I think that, when I was a young officer in a whole different generation, I had some chiefs that I worked for who, hey, Goldie, what do you think? And other chiefs where I'd suggest something, you could go back to your engine. Well, okay, well,
Yeah.
And that's really where I learned that I need to understand if I'm not having success in making change, then I need to readjust and identify where I can have effect and where I can make change. And we can't change an entire fire department by ourselves. So identify, let's say you're the officer of Engine 21. then let's just focus on engine 21 being the best it can. And the other things will take care of themselves if that makes sense. Otherwise, you make yourself nuts. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Appreciate it. So, Chief, I mean, 2021, we're just now getting started. It could be a rocky start. Hopefully it's not. But what do you have, or what do you see on the agenda or the horizons for fire protection emergency services in 2021? What do you want to start up? What do you want to continue? What do you want to see finish this year?
So we're at a scary time in the next couple of weeks. I think that we're all kind of a little concerned. Personally, I'm trying to figure out what people don't have in America that they want. I'm very patriotic. I've had a flag in front of my house since the first house I've ever had. I really believe that when some radicals do what they do and go after the heart of our country like we saw last week, that's a problem. And I do believe that's going to be taken care of. This is not the 1700s with the British and issues like that. I mean, where people want to have their guns, they can. No one's stopping that.
Right.
People want to have a right for freedom, you can. Just can't hurt anybody else.
Right.
I'm scratching my head a little bit because I always try to keep a very open mind on all sides to understand what's going on here. If it's because you don't like Black people or Hispanic people or stuff like that, well, that's kind of what America's made of, is our doors are open. And of course, there's a process to get in, and I believe in all that.
Yeah.
But that's America, man. That's what we are. So that's just kind of my personal feelings. And I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to see, I'm also torn. One week we want to defund the police. The next week, where are the cops are getting taken over here? So it's kind of that kind of thing. It's a tough time.
Yeah.
The country has voted. They've made their decision, and let's see where it goes.
Yeah.
Whatever president we've always had, and I've liked some and I've disliked some, but we have to respect the fact that this is the president. Let's give it a shot and see how it works out.
Yeah.
Now, to move forward with that, what am I looking for in 2021? I'll make this real simple for you. I just want firefighters to give a shit. That's all I want. You give me any problem, and I can fix it if you give me firefighters who care.
Yeah.
So that's my focus. That's my interest. That's what I've been pushing. Just give me some people who care. If you don't care, you don't want to be here, go home, quit, resign, go away, go work in a bakery. I don't care. Just go away from me because I don't need your negative energy.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, and I'm as enthusiastic now as when I was 16 years old. And I'm still quick out of bed, quick on the run, quick to whatever. And I'm not going to let anybody take that away from me. So you need to, I want people to mentor, to guide. I work actually every officer around me is much younger than me. All the chiefs and at least by 5 years, if not much more than that. And we've got some chiefs in our area, Goshen, Loveland, Sims, Mason, Deerfield, Hamilton Township, these areas we work in, this corner here. Phenomenal fire officers. They love it. They take courses, they study, they listen off duty. That's what we want. And that's what I want to see come forward. And with those kind of folks pushing that stuff, we're doing okay. We're pretty positive. Now, we're challenged with recruitment issues around here, and that's a national problem. But hey, I just give me firefighters who give a shit, and give me officers who want that environment, and we're going to be just fine. But it's a tough time. We have some significant challenges between COVID and what they're predicting that we're going to see riots in all the major cities and all the capitals, and we're going to have to respond to that.
Yeah.
And that puts us in a position that we may not necessarily want. But people have got to trust us. And as we've seen, there's some accusations of firefighters being involved in breaking into the Capitol and doing that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's not who we are. Apparently it is for some of them. And if some of you are listening, it's a free country, do what you want. But we also have to be able to know that these people can be trusted in our own communities.
Yeah.
And if you're angry at this type of person or that type of person, How are you going to function when you have to go to a fire, have an emergency involving this type of person or that type of person? To me, it's a time for real self-reflection for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yep. I totally agree. One issue that, not really an issue, but a initiative that, we started to see in the Air Force and I'm seeing locally here is firefighters merging with law enforcement to provide support during tactical operations. There was a lot of pushback at first in the Air Force, was that, hey, we're firefighters, they're cops, everybody stay in their own swim lane. But at the end of the day, they started merging. Some firefighters got trained and everything. And like I said, we're seeing that here locally. What are your thoughts on that, in terms of firefighters, usually, at the rear of the team, triage, treating victims, getting them out as quick as possible. Is that something that's you see continuing within the fire service and gaining more momentum, or is that, what are your thoughts on that, Chief?
I think it depends on the community. I think if you're in some of the extreme left communities, you're going to see a pull away from that. I think if you're in some of the right wing communities, you may see more of a push for that. Maybe, I don't know. But let's dig into that for a minute. I think firefighters need to be there to be part of the response team when we have good, well-trained cops. That's the issue. It's not supporting. There are bad eggs out there, but there's many, many good eggs out there.
Yeah.
So it's up to the community leadership and the fire chief to decide, is this the kind of group we're going to support? Are these cops who go through mental health training to support people who are having a mental crisis? Or is once a year they go to the range and is that their only training that they get? So who we support is based upon what we're supporting, I think, right? It's kind of like you respond mutual aid to a fire department and that fire department's a disaster. You got to start scratching your head. Do I want to bring my people into that environment and drag them into that? And most times we want to go, but sometimes we need to think, wait a minute, what are we entering ourselves into?
Yeah.
So I think that, look, I'm a huge proponent of the police. We need the police as the United States of America. We're based upon laws, policies, procedures. Okay. But there's some bad cops out there, and there needs to be systems in place to make sure that we have as many good cops as possible, just like firefighters. Every week a firefighter set a fire. Firefighter assaulted a junior member in the firehouse. It's people stuff. So good background checks, good supervision, all these things, good policy, training on the policy, enforcement of the policy. That tends to keep things. And look, you're military. What I just described is military.
Yeah.
That's how things have to be operated.
Yep.
So should we be there in tactical gear as tactical medics supporting? Of course. Because we have to we're not just taking care of the cops, we're helping take care of the civilian who got shot or whatever. Yeah. But it has to be under an environment where everybody's qualified, everybody's trained, everybody's training, and there's a system of operating policies and procedures. For us just to put on vests and go yahooing into shooting scenes and stuff, no, absolutely not. No. And look, again, America is in a time right now where we're all looking, and the police are under a microscope. And understand, in my opinion, we're talking about high 90% police officers are phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm not new to this. I've been working with cops since the beginning. And there's a knucklehead from time to time. But overall, these are good people who want to do a good job, and we need to support them.
Yep. So as we get to the close of the podcast here, Chief, our listeners, those that know you, I want to know, how do you maintain the amazing mustache?
You're not going to believe this, but I just spoke to some of my own crew and said your mustache is getting a little too long. I don't know. I don't know even why I have a mustache. I really don't. I just have it. I've always had an interest. I don't know. As a kid, I used to take my comb and put it under my nose, and it's just, I think I've seen what I look like without it, and it's pretty scary. So
okay.
It's just, I don't know. It's just there. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
And my wife loves it, and that's all that really matters, I guess.
Yeah.
And my grandkids love to pull on it, but it's turned gray. It's white, going downhill like the rest of me. But it's just a thing. I guess if you remember the old Little Rascals, Alfalfa had that hair that stuck up on the back of his head. So I have a mustache, I guess. I don't know. But I've always had it, and
well, we hear the podcast love it. So.
How do I maintain it? I shampoo the damn thing. Can you imagine if you didn't clean it? You know. So I'll tell you a funny story. So if I eat ice cream, I turn the spoon upside down to put the ice cream so it doesn't get in my mustache. So my grandkids growing up thought you had to turn the spoon upside down to get ice cream.
Oh no!
But they all turn the spoon upside down. And I'm hell to be around on clam chowder night. It's very
my gosh,
stuff like that. Anyway, I'm just so lucky that for a whole variety of reasons, I have an opportunity to share my thoughts, and there are some people that enjoy listening to them, and I certainly enjoy sharing them. I'm beyond blessed with the opportunity to impact change, and that this is. I actually had somebody come up to me and say, "How do I get the notoriety?" I said, that's not it. It's you got to do good. You got to give. I sit on the IFC board of directors, and we've had some significant challenges in the last year. And that's because a few people along the way have forgotten what they're there for. The kudos will always come along. I mean, I've got one of the highest awards I ever received was the FDIC Tom Brennan Lifetime Achievement Award. I didn't just give that away.
Right.
When they called me and said I was getting it, I was blown away because I didn't set out someday say, "Oh, one day I'm going to get this." And my walls are filled with amazing and beautiful honors, but I don't change, and I haven't changed what I'm doing. It's just along the way, somebody said, "Oh, that's really cool. We'd like to give you something," and I'm thrilled. I love that's wonderful.
Yeah.
But do good. That it's so simple. Bruno used to say, "Be nice." Just be nice. Do good. Give a shit. Right. That's what we talked about today on your podcast, and it'll all work out. And this is the good feeling. Is the best gift, award, recognition, whatever. The other stuff's nice, but man, you guys and gals on the podcast know when you go there and you're able to stop the fire in the one room, that's the best feeling in the world.
Yep.
Or if you can revive that baby or whatever, and that's what it's about. So there's no secret, there's no mystery, there's no hidden agendas here. This is what you get. I am me, and I'm just very, very lucky that in the beginning of my career, people told me to shut up. They didn't want my opinion. And now people pay me big bucks to give them their opinion, to give me my opinion, which is kind of cool. So anyway, that's obviously I'm kidding, but I'm just very lucky and just love the job because it goes so fast.
Yeah. And you're doing what you do for the right reasons. There's some folks out there, like you said, they want the notoriety, they want that plaque on the wall, they want the fame and everything that goes with it. I think you have a broad view of your mission. I'm the same way, at least I hope. I've followed you throughout my career. Your name has popped up. I'll be honest, this is a dream to have you on the podcast and be able to talk to you.
You need to improve upon your dreams.
Well, no, this is a highlight.
No, I appreciate that. And you gotta, and you're saying exactly the right things. Just find something you love and just do that. And the rest will come along. You can't get a home run until you learn how to play baseball.
Yep.
And as you get better and you improve, and one day maybe you're able to hit that first base and second base and stuff. But this is about having the heart of taking care of others and putting your money where your mouth is. I mean, we did the 3 Pass It On series books, and we've raised tens of thousands of dollars for the National Fallen Firefighters, the Chief Ray Downey Scholarship, and the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. When I reached out to 150 friends and asked them to write chapters in the book, I told them this is because we're doing a fundraiser. So you got to give back. And I've seen, especially lately, dealing with some challenges in some of the organizations I'm involved with. There are some people in leadership positions that are sort of forgot the mission. Yep. And I feel it's my responsibility at this stage in my life to remind them what the mission is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, at the top of the podcast, I appreciate what you've done throughout your career, what you're doing for the fire service. You're giving back. you're taking everything that you've been blessed with over the years and giving that back. And, you're a mentor to so many individuals out there, myself included, a lot of my listeners. So,
we can do another podcast day, tell you all the screw ups I've done in my career too. And all of those, I'll tell you, and the mistakes I've made in my career. And there's not lots, but there's some, and some are significant. Yep. They've helped mold me into being a better person, being a better boss, being a better chief. And so, that's for the comment there is for those who do stumble. It's not the end of the world.
Right.
Just a chance to learn. And if you did make a mistake, for God's sakes, admit it and move on.
Yeah.
That's the other thing today.
Yep.
When I talk about people who want to give a shit. Also, how about taking responsibility?
Yeah.
You made a mistake.
Integrity.
Own it. Own it.
Yeah. Yep.
When are you going to work on a mustache? Are you?
I used to have a mustache. I shaved it because my kid, my wife, my one driver's license photo, it looked like I was in the mob. And it's like, no, it does not look. I had when I first started in the Air Force, but it was, it's no go. Now my kid, my son, he's planning on, he's a volunteer firefighter along with me, and he wants to go in the Air Force as a firefighter.
Very nice.
So, he's following dad's steps and everything, but yeah, he can handle a mustache pretty well. So, if he'll keep it in the family. For me though, it's just like my hair. I used to have hair and I said, to heck with it. I started.
Jimmy Buffett says somebody stole my hair.
Well, Chief, is there anything that you want to talk about that you're just like, I got an opportunity here on the podcast.
Yeah. Let me give you one more thing. And
okay.
I sort of touched on it, but it's really, I covered it and pass it on 3. It's in my first chapter, and I'm going to share it again now. And I've been sharing it every chance I have. So obviously we talked about the give a shit part. We want people who care. And care about anybody, not select people, and not even pretend to care about select people. If it's not in your heart to care and serve all, then find something else to do. There's nothing wrong with it. The other issue is the best advice I never got. The best advice I never got was to understand what your capabilities are and be able to identify when you are capable or qualified to do something and when you're not. Earlier in my career, as I promoted up and became a chief, I very much buy into the sisterhood and brotherhood aspect, although I coined the frame years ago, BMA, brotherhood my ass, because sometimes it bites us in the ass. Not everybody's your brother. It's just the way it is, some human nature stuff. But I really believe that, and I got involved in a situation involving a male and a female firefighter who came to me for advice, and I thought the advice they were dating or living together, whatever, and I gave them advice, and it turned around on me, and then they blamed me for ruining their relationship and all that crap. And silly me, I gave you my advice, right? But it on a very serious note, unless you've got a card, a degree, or huge amounts of experience in something, don't provide your advice. And I'm not talking about the fire ground. I'm talking about in quarters, which is where we have much of our risk. These days with personnel issues, people being much more sensitive than they used to be. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm saying it's how it is. You as a young officer people will come to you and say, hey, Lieutenant, what do you think about this hose load? You are qualified to talk about the hose load. Hey, Lieutenant, I was late last week. Okay, don't be late again. Hey, Lieutenant, my wife and I are having problems. Here's the number to EAP.
Yep.
That's the greatest advice I never got. Do not get yourself involved in personnel issues. No, picture yourself responding to an engine company, on an engine company. You're the first responding engine. You're going to size up the situation, and then immediately you're going to decide whether what you have coming is capable of dealing with it, whether you want to reduce the response because it's not what it was dispatched as, or you want to greatly increase the response because you don't have the capability. So I'm not a hazmat tick. I'm a hazmat minimum. Whatever I need to be a chief as hazmat is what I have. I can't fill my head with much more. So I focus on the things that I focus on. I've got phenomenal people that respond with us on hazmat.
Yeah.
If I pull up on a run, I have enough knowledge to know what we should and shouldn't do, and then I call the hazmat team in.
There you go.
Okay?
Yep.
If you want me to do a class on single family, low-rise multifamily, strip row stores, I'm your guy. You want me to do high-rise? Not me. No experience, no qualifications. See what I'm saying? So know what you're qualified in, not what you think you are, but what something says you are, okay?
Yeah.
And when that firefighter comes to you with some advice issues, hey, I'm thinking about getting my wife a new car. You think it's a good idea? Yeah, it's a great idea. You're not going to hurt anything.
Right.
But
Yeah.
listen, Lieutenant, I'm having issues with my husband, and I really need your advice. You know, Mary, you're my sister here. I love you on the job. We do a great job together. I just don't know that I'm the right person to give you the advice, but here's a number to our counseling service, and that's who. So you're going to send them to the hazmat team. You're going to send them to the experts. So that's my final word with you today. Whether you're on the scene of an emergency, but mostly when you're dealing with your personnel issues, stay in your lane. Know what your qualifications are. Apply those qualifications. And if something doesn't say you're qualified, please think very hard whether or not you should be providing that advice. Because as much in your heart you want to try and help, in reality, you may be hurting them and hurting yourself at the same time. So that's my thoughts.
And that's why you are a very wise man, Chief.
You get scars, you get wise.
Yep. Well, Chief, that's going to do it for this episode of the Weekend Wrap Up. You know, like I said, we appreciate you being a guest on the show. Hopefully our listeners appreciate it. I'm sure they do, around the world.
Absolute pleasure. This was fun. I love chatting. I mean, I can do this all day long.
I can sense that. And yeah, we appreciate it. So folks, that's going to do it for this week, the Weekend Wrap Up. And you've been listening to Chief Billy Goldfeder, our guest for this episode. So again, thanks, Chief.
Absolutely a pleasure. Check us out at firefighterclosecalls.com and consider buying one of the Pass It On books. All proceeds are going to charity, and I promise you will find them of great value.
Sounds good. And we will be putting links to the website in our podcast and on social media. So again, thanks, Chief.
Thanks for what you're doing, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, folks, there you have it. Priceless words of wisdom from Chief Billy Goldfeder. I hope you enjoyed listening to Chief Goldfeder here in the Weekend Wrap-Up as much as I had chatting with him. As Chief stated, please check out Firefighter Close Calls by typing firefighterclosecalls.com in whatever web browser you're using. And from there, scroll down, and on the right side, you should see some cartoon images of Chief and his Pass It On books. Simply click on any of those links to order a copy of what is truly an invaluable collection of wisdom and information that may make you laugh and could potentially save your life one day. With that, folks, as always, stay safe, keep listening, and until next time, we're out of here.
Thanks for listening. To follow Kevin and the Weekend Wrap-Up podcast from your favorite streaming platform, open the podcast description and then click the Support the Show link, or go to afso21.com. From there, click the Weekend Wrap-Up podcast link, which will allow you to follow the show, download episodes, learn more about our contributors and the podcast, subscribe, which gives you exclusive access to premium and/or bonus episodes, or support the show, where you can make a much-appreciated contribution of your choice. You can even click on the podcasts we love to build your personal podcast library. We here at the Weekend Wrap-Up podcast appreciate you and look forward to bringing you more episodes that support the work you're doing in fire and emergency services. Remember, click the Support the Show link or head over to our website at afso21.com. Stay safe.